It'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
All right.
All right, so first thing noticing here is that we kind of end up pushing ourselves a little too far out of line of sight of Reinhardt here, where we end up the corner. All you have to do to not let them damage us is just go here. But when we go further and further to the right, then that just means hurt as easily, and everybody else who's forwards, especially if he's running to the right. Careful, because like all forwards to be able to get. That and that's the sort of thing that can start snowballing a first point into a second point sort of thing. So that's just really important that you keep. One of the things with Ana positioning is making sure that you're keeping line of sight on your teammates, trying to see as many people as possible, while of course not obsessing about the Genji in their backline. And at the same time, not trying to do that while not putting yourself in a position that's going to get you killed. But here you definitely could be like maybe up on the corner or further to the left here, which would give you line of sight on Reinhardt without putting you in too much danger. Additionally, maybe when you do throw the nade's kind of not really, not on target.
No.
Yeah, kind of a little far off there. And also potentially could have tossed some abilities in like earlier as they're kind of pushing through choke just to get some pressure on them as they're advancing, sort of thing. Get some abilities out there doing things, but that's a bit more for the current moment minor. But that makes sense just in terms of line of sight.
Okay.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
And
Because
that I did notice immediately. I think
yeah,
that I was playing a little too far out.
yep. Alright, we kind of fall apart pretty fast from there. Okay, might talk about scoping and the different types in a minute. Uh-oh, that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got melted pretty fast there. All right, so let's real quick talk about abilities. So when it comes to Ana, and now you play a lot of different supports from what you put over there, but on Ana, and this also kind of applies to other sports as well, a little bit. But your abilities is and sorry, I'll rephrase here. It does very heavily apply to a lot of other supports here. Abilities is a large part of how you get value on your supports. And specifically with Ana, it's a large part of how you get your carry potential, right? As we were saying before, it's easy enough to hang at a rank that's higher than you because, okay, you can just heal fine, you keep them up, you keep them alive. But to be able to have the impact where you are really leaving a special mark in your games, where you are having an impact that even if you have a platinum Reinhardt player, you're able to help boost them up and carry them through it. That kind of impact, a large part of that's going to come from ability usage. So the first thing I'm noticing with ability usage is you're not really using them too much. Kind of holding on to them. We're like 2 minutes in, and I've maybe seen you use like one of each. And that's just not a lot in general. Second thing is that I'm not really seeing you put yourself in positions to use them aggressively. Now, when it comes to abilities, first you want both quantity and quality. We'll get into quality as we go along with basically just how to get good ones. But the first step is actually just using them. You basically should be using them off of cooldown every single time that you get them, unless you have pressure on you. So if you have, for example, let's say they're on a dive or something of that sort, if they're on a dive and they're pressuring you and they're diving you, well, then you might want to, if they have a little bit of pressure, start holding on to sleep. Right. Or sorry, let's say bare minimum pressure. You start rotating your abilities, right? So you throw nade, you wait a second, then you throw sleep in maybe halfway through. That's the bare minimum, because then you have an ability that's close. Next step, if you have a little bit more pressure, you start holding onto your sleep, because sleep is the more defensive ability. Then the next step, if you're under max pressure, would be you start holding onto both abilities for when they dive you, so that you have a sleep as an option. You have healing, because that's usually when they're grouping up on anyways, is when they're diving you. But if you're looking at this current team comp, do they have very much pressure for you in particular? Are they like really diving you very much or flanking?
No, not really.
No, which means that you can basically just be tossing in your abilities off cooldown. Like I said, we'll talk about how to get them in well and good, so that they're not just getting tossed into walls and stuff, and getting tossed and hitting one, making sure you're not hitting just one person with your nades and that sort of thing. But first step, use them, and that's part of how you're gonna get carry value. Because if you're just like think of it this way, if you're just sitting there and heal botting as Ana, then really what's besides just like keeping people alive, what special impact are you having on the game? You're really just at that point leaving it up to your DPS and your tank to carry, and what are they going to do any different than the average plat player? They're always going to be plat, so they're not, statistically speaking, they're never going to do enough to actually carry out. They're not going to win more than 50% of the time. So if you're trying to have impact, start using your abilities, and try to get big value with them, and put yourselves in positions to get big value with them, and then you'll start to see more value. Like I said, we'll go more on that as we go along, but that makes sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do use them. I don't. I think now I just wasn't paying attention of good
Yeah.
opportunities to use them.
Mhm.
And then I have like just this very preservative on cooldowns, because
Yeah.
well, I play BAP, and then I know that lamp you kind of just don't want to throw out. You're waiting for
Yeah.
a specific cooldown and things like that. So that's
For
just a bad
sure.
habit from another
Yeah,
hero. But
it's just exactly, it just differs between the different characters, just because you have things like Lamp and also something like Kiriko Suzu. Those are both
mm,
specifically defensive abilities,
mm,
whereas both Sleep and Nade, though they can be used defensively, they both also can be used offensively. Nade being the more offensive, Sleep being the more defensive, but if you as Ana don't really need the defensive, then use the offensive much more, and you'll see a lot of value.
yeah, yeah.
Taking damage.
Okay, so
Oh,
next,
my aim is bad here. Like I know it doesn't matter, but it's terrible. Like I just got off of off of work, so I do
all
catch them.
good,
Like I do hit my shots,
all
and I
all
know
good.
that comes with time.
Yeah,
So
do you question on that end? Do you warm up before you start playing,
I
like
usually do a
competitive?
quick play. Yeah, I usually do like one quick play, two quick plays,
Okay,
depending. Like if I swag out on quick play, then I
so
know I'm like good.
l-
But if
let me give you my recommendations for warm up. So, what warming up, what warming up is used for and useful for is, it is specifically to warm up your aim. Your mental capacity is not going to disappear overnight. You're not going to come in tomorrow and be like, "Oh, is that what character is that? What should I be doing? What should I be doing here?" Now, if you take like a couple weeks off, then that'll start to fade away and get rusty. But that's not what's getting rusty right away. What's getting rusty is your mechanics, because your muscle memory fades at a very rapid pace. So that means that if you go a day, literally overnight, your muscle memory will need to be refreshed, right? So you get on, your muscle memories needs to get a quick refresher, and that's what the warm up is. It's to get your blood pumping, get your aim back in the game, and whatnot. So my recommendation, therefore, would be high aim-intensive game modes. Though quick play, of course, has aim in it, it's also not high intensive. There's a lot of downtime within it, and it's also not specifically focused on mechanics. There are a lot of other modes that are. So, for example, just some modes that I like in custom games, and I would recommend kind of doing a variety between these as well, is something like Try Hard Free For All. Try Hard Free For All is a mode that is high intensity. It's constantly action all the time, and it's also specifically mechanics focused. There's no teammates to worry about. There's no objectives. There's no there's nothing else besides just you, your mechanics, and then your dueling of people. So there's a lot less to worry about. You don't have to worry about your ultimates. You don't have to worry as much about your ability usage. It's just doing your thing, shooting. Other high aim intensive modes would be like Aim Arena, 1v1 Arena. If you're playing Ana, you could do, or Kiriko, you could do like headshot, Kiriko headshot only. You can do Ana paintball. You could do aim trainer modes in game, and you can also do aim trainers like out of game, like on Steam, such as Kovacs, and I think I always blank on the one. There's Aim Hero, there's Aim Lab, another one, right? So just things like that. Do it for like 10, 15 minutes, and then you'll be golden. It's really all there is to it. Another minor point to add in there is just because of the fact that it deteriorates, so your aim deteriorates so quickly, to keep it consistent. If you ever have a day where you just like, maybe you're working late and something like that, you don't have too much time, just, at the very minimum, I would try to get in like a 10 to 15 minute warm up just to keep it consistent. Of course, life stuff happens. If life stuff happens, life happens. Don't worry about it. But, if you're able to, just try to get it in. But does that make sense in terms of what tweaks to make there?
Yeah. Play something that needs a little more just focus on your aim, get it
Yeah.
warmed up, get your hand going. The muscle
Yeah.
memory, the shots, the flicks, the
Exactly.
holds, the tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. The thing I was gonna mention here when I paused, is looks like there's a bit of overhealing going on. Overhealing's basically just anytime somebody is full HP or very close to full HP, and we're healing them anyways. If they're full HP and we're healing them, then it doesn't really do anything at all. It's just kind of wasted time, which can lead to seconds per fight, which leads to minutes per game where you're doing absolutely nothing. And on top of that, you end up wasting ammo, so now you don't got ammo when you need it. Certain supports, you're even wasting resources, like if you're wasting break packs, that sort of thing. That idea. Then you're not just wasting time, but you're also wasting resources. Usually the biggest culprits. Ana's not as big of a culprit, but if you play Baptiste and Kiriko, those characters are also going to be really big culprits of overhealing. Mercy especially as well. Like and Moira, it'll happen a lot more. So just be really careful. The other thing to note is that even if somebody's really high on HP, sometimes it's not the biggest priority to heal them, right? Like if somebody's, for example, if a squishy's down 30 to 50 HP, if a tank's down like 50 to 100, sometimes other things just could take precedent, right? Like if somebody's like down 30 HP, is it really the biggest deal in the world when you could instead be reloading for when they actually do need healing? You could be using that time to use your abilities and get in value through your abilities. You could be shooting at an enemy. You could, now, of course, always prioritize healing teammates over shooting, but if they're just down 30, 20, 10, go for some shots into the enemy team. Look around for somebody else to heal. Look around at your surroundings, use your ultimate, etc. There's your reposition. There's so much else to do with your gameplay. Ultimately, it's just a lot of wasted time when we do this, right? You can see it. We go shot on the Ryan, full HP. Shot on the Kiriko, full HP. I think we did it again on the McCree before that too. I saw a couple other shots through other different fights and whatnot. But once again, that kind of makes sense as a concept.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. All right. Okay. So here, let's think real quick. Firstly, noticing that once again we're letting Reinhardt get out of our line of sight. Now, don't really, like I said before, don't worry about, you don't have to constantly have everybody. You want as many people as possible that's realistic. Here, if McCree's going up there on the top left, you're not going to really be able to do very much about that. You can't really keep up with that too well. But you very easily could keep up with Reinhardt here, and you end up doing this while he's in the middle of like charging into their team. We do this rotation around to the side. When we're, maybe we had like a Junkrat pellet coming at us, but that's easily dodgeable, right? So not really a big reason to rotate over to the side, and then rotating over to the side, we're doing that like as he's getting aggro, so it's kind of mistimed. Maybe that's like partially going to be like a lack of awareness on just knowing that he's going in and stuff like that. So make sure you're paying attention, keep in line of sight, and then yeah, if he's critical HPs, like you want to chuck in the nade. He's critical. Sometimes just heal, especially if you're far away. The nade's just gonna have too much travel time on it. So just healing normal, but that's more minor.
Yeah.
All right. Great nano timing. I like how we landed it right as he's going for the shatter and getting aggro. Perfect. Nade. That's an okay nade, but it's really, I would say, mistimed when we could. We just knew the Reinhardt just landed a shatter. We can trust that he maybe at least got one person. Take half an extra second to peek around the corner, and then now that's a insta 2K if we toss it on the ground there. When you're throwing your nade, the first thing I'll mention, right? I said we'd go over quality nades, as well, because one person, sure, that's great. It's better than zero. One person is definitely better than zero. I'd rather you get one person than nobody. Yet at the same time, one person is significantly less value than if you get 3, 4, 5 people in your nade. When you are getting 2 people in a nade, that's probably more like 2.5 to possibly 3 times value, right? Because it's not, as you get more, it's almost exponential. It's not just a 1-to-1 ratio. It means that you're getting a lot more value. Imagine getting 2 kills here for free versus just purpling one Junker Queen who's full HP and nobody's looking at her. It's that sort of thing. So go for, I'd say at a minimum, aim for 2 people. If you're able to, go for more. Throughout a fight, people will kind of together, and you'll have like 4 people grouped up, and then they'll split up, and everyone's spread apart, and then that's not the time to go for it. And then give it another 2 seconds, and 2 people will come together, and then they'll spread, and then 3 will come together, and then they'll spread out. It's just gonna kind of be like that throughout the fight, and you want to make sure your time. That'll happen very frequently. Like if I did bird's eye view, I'd probably be able to say, and they're grouped here, and they're grouped there, and they're grouped here, right? Like that sort of thing. So just for that intentionally, give it a little bit extra thought when you're tossing out the ability, and then you just get it some extra kills out of it.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but yeah. I see.
Taking care of you.
You can't hide. Bad guys, heads up.
I'm here. Keep fighting. My ultimate is almost ready. Help me.
Almost got a Junker Queen in that one too. Okay. Maybe go over in a second. Something else in a second here. Nice sleep.
I don't hit him, by the way. I was so mad. But I did hit the bat, which is, well, I guess.
Yeah, they're all kind of standing on top of each other anyways.
I think he might have gotten in front of it.
No recovery.
Good nade.
Would even kill someone there. I don't want to challenge that. BAP is, I play BAP, but I know I win that.
Healing fortified.
Alright, so let's rewatch that for half a second. Alright. Here, Reinhardt charges in. We see him charge in, which of course is a little bit aggro. But notice that he's putting himself in a really dangerous position, and we're kind of going for the pot shots on our Junker Queen right now. So make sure that just the healing is coming as the priority over just going for the damage. And you should be kind of presuming that he's going to be taking damage because of how aggressive he's getting. This is part of like pre-aiming, and you want to aim at people. Part of pre-aiming is aiming at people you know not are low but will be low soon. So you can, for example, think of like, okay, if my Pharah's barraging, even if she's full HP, she may not be that way for long, right? Even if my Kree's high nooning at full HP, might not be that way for long. If Reinhardt's charging into the middle of their team, might not be full HP for very long. So probably want to be looking at him mildly sooner. You throw in the nade misses.
No, it hits him.
Does it hit him?
Yeah,
I think it. I see.
That's
Oh,
weird.
okay, no, you're right. It does hit him. Okay, good hit.
I wanted to get nano as well.
Yeah.
But there, well, there I did notice, and it's like aim positioning, like placing your aim where the enemies or allies are going to be.
Yeah.
That I get. I think there I just wanted to get a quick pop shot and then look back because I know it was going to be a second till I could see him.
Yeah.
But I get the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Enough whining. You're fine. I'll keep you up.
Alright, so we're definitely going to talk a bit about positioning. So we're going to go over some positioning, we're going to go over some nade stuff, and things of that sort. Alright. So, I guess let's start with nades. Nades, bit simpler, bit easier to wrap minds around. Firstly, don't try to chuck nades straight at people. If you're throwing a nade and you try to throw it straight at the person and you miss, where's this bot at? Bot, alright, and you miss, it just goes sailing past and then they aren't going to do anything. Instead, aim for the feet in between as many people as you're able to. This means that you, firstly, it doesn't get caught on people and they don't body block it. But it also means you have this giant splash radius, so it doesn't go sailing past them. If you were to miss them, it gives you a lot more room for error. So go for floors, go for walls, go for ceilings, be creative with it. If they're up here and I don't have a good angle on the floor, I can go for the ceiling, and that would be much easier than trying to hit a moving target. So that'd be the first thing, floor in between as many people as possible. Next thing is just going to be a quick tech that is going to be super handy. So this is particularly useful for medium to long ranges to keep nades consistent at those ranges, because they can be a bit more difficult to land at medium long ranges. This doesn't work really. I mean, you don't really want to use this at close ranges at all, and this only works if you're scoped in. So scope in, take your ultimate charge and line that up with an enemy and toss in your nade, and then the nade's gonna hit them from any height or any range that you're at.
Okay.
Same thing if I'm on even footing with them here. Now you might have to adjust up and down minorly. Here they're on a slope, and from this distance, I'm gonna have to line up my Q on the bot. So when the bot kind of runs back into that room, I line up the Q, toss in the nade. Nade reaches him. If I backed up a little bit, I might need to aim a bit higher, right, just for that fall off. So I might put like Q right above the head, that sort of thing. Your reference point is going to make it a lot easier. when you are going for abilities, make sure that you're putting thought and effort into them. Really, a lot of the times, what I find on a players struggle with, and sometimes it's looking like a little bit here with your nades and sleeps, is you'll go, okay, I'm looking for his nade, and now I'm doing my stuff, and then
Getting drowsy?
But if you don't need to rush it, then don't rush. If you don't have the perfect opportunity in front of your face, don't rush it. Take a little bit of time to think about it and line it up. So you can even do this while it's off of cooldown. So if it's off of cooldown, I can be thinking, I have 10 seconds. I can be going, okay, I'm putting this on autopilot. I'm looking for my nade. I'm lining it up. Oh, I see 2 people there. I need to reposition. I'm lining it up. I'm tossing in the nade, right? So I'm taking time to put thought into it, and then you can kind of put the just normal healing and shooting on a bit more of autopilot as you're focusing on this.
Tango down.
Going off of that tangent, that's really how you work on all of the things we're talking about. How you improve and apply the things we're working on is going to be by intentionally focusing on things to work on. That means that you're not going to autopilot. You're not going to just play to play. And contrary to popular belief, you're not going to purely play to win, because then you kind of just stagnate instead of going anywhere.
Not the first, not the last.
What that will look like is you're going to pick something out, and then you're going to think to yourself, let's say we're thinking abilities, you're going to think to yourself, abilities, nade, sleep. And when you give yourself that constant stream of reminders, well, then you're probably going to use your abilities more often. You're probably going to use them a bit better than if you didn't think about them at all. And if you do that for a long enough period of time, that forms it as a positive habit. Once it forms as a habit, then you don't really need to put as much focus and effort. It just kind of comes a bit more naturally now. And then you can work on something else. And that's the process of improvement. Final thing is, don't try to do everything all at the same time, because that will become overwhelming. Instead, focus on one category of things, or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. Make sense?
Yes.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's see. We're gonna go over some positioning stuff. Let's touch on one more thing with nades and sleeps, and then then that transitions into positioning. If you are trying to land your abilities, you have a lot of obstacles that can get in the way. You have teammates in the way, you have enemies, you have shields, and you have enemy abilities, tanking abilities, right? Teammates and enemies, decently simple, but a lot of times people just forget anyways. Push through, walk to the left, walk to the right, back up and throw over, or just wait for them to move out of the way. Just really just make sure you're paying attention to them, and don't let them just walk in front of your nade or nanos. No, I don't think that was the biggest problem. This is making sure we're just getting this out of the way, and then it sets up the next tangent anyways, because I think the next tangent is really the more pressing matter anyways, with your positioning. But also shields and tanking abilities, you get around them, throw it at somebody who's not behind them, wait for a shield to break, wait for them to drop it, try to go to the left, to the shield to the right, over, possibly nichely underneath it, wait for them to die. Really have a lot of options to work with. Just make sure you're not chucking it straight into the shield. Just try to get it around. And same thing with all the different abilities that can get in the way. But it's still a lot. You know, you can do it, but it's a lot to keep track of in your game. And there's really a super easy way to just instantly bypass all of that. If the enemy team's there and our team's here, and we have everything in front of us here that we're trying to get through, it's going to be real difficult. But if we just position like this, and we're healing and doing our thing, and then we just come off into the room here, well, now we just immediately got around the teammates and the shields and the enemies and then tanking abilities straight to their back line, right, without any obstacles. And it's very fast and it's very safe because we can immediately back up. And that's what you call an off angle, right? It's a different angle from the main angle. and that's going to be there about like half of the time in your games. Another example: enemy team, our team, main angle. We back up, we heal them, we heal our team, right? We peek up here for a couple seconds, and we go bam, right? Nade straight to the back line. Got around all the obstacles, very safe, very quick. High grounds all act as natural
Nodding off.
super easily, and that whole concept of off-angling makes sense.
Yeah. Instead of walking down main, like being an easy target and like being well, yeah, like putting yourself in a position where it's easy to be spotted and you cannot just do whatever you like. Like
Yeah.
off angling will just give you more opportunities to do whatever you like instead of doing whatever the enemy.
Exactly. Yep.
do.
And especially on a character like Ana, you don't have to peek on the off angle for too long, right? You go there for like, 2 seconds, land the nade, and you're out. Or land the nade, land the sleep, and then you're good. Part of looking for that off angle is going to be part of that looking for the abilities process, right? You go on the off angle, you take a couple of seconds, you do it, and then you get back up to your team, and until the next ability cycle comes around. Next positioning thing is going to be, I think that you're positioning a little too far away in some of your fights. Ana, as a character, a lot of people get baited into thinking that as a character she is a sniper. I would like to clarify that Ana has a sniper, she is not a sniper character. Her gun, though it has very, very far, instant range, whatnot, she doesn't want to play at a Widowmaker's distance from the fight for a couple reasons. Primary reason is going to be your ability usage. We just talked about, spent a lot of time discussing how much impact your abilities can have and whatnot, and they're both projectiles. Inherently, that will make them much more difficult to land the further away from the fight you're going. They're going to have a longer travel time. So let's say somebody's low, like Reinhardt. By the time Nate gets there, he might already be dead. Or he might have already moved out of the way. Or he might have, if it's an enemy, they might block it or dodge it, right? That sort of thing. They're going to be a lot less...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot less consistent. They're going to be missing a lot more, and they're going to be delayed to get their intended purpose. On top of that, that's not the only thing. You also potentially not as big of a thing, but you can play out of range of nano potentially. The bigger thing is it's also going to be harder to keep line of sight on teammates, right? Like let's say our team, right? Let's say this is our team over there, and we're positioning all back here, right? What if they just walk to the left? Well, now to be able to see them, like we can't just like, if we're up here, notice what you can do. If they walk to the left, you go boop. Now I can see them, right? But if I'm all the way back here, yes, I can see them now. But to see them, I'd have to like do this really awkward like run to the side or run forwards. Is really not gonna be great. You don't really have good line of sight on them. So, in terms of where should you be positioning, and also another thing is it's usually as well if you're is going to be another thing. So overall, not usually great. Exceptions would be like if you have a really like wide open part of the map, specific points of specific maps, maybe possibly sometimes on like Hollywood, last point defense, that sort of thing is okay. But it kind of really depends. Usually though, positioning wise, you're going to want to position a close to medium range from your team, meaning close is preference, medium, but it can go to kind of a medium range. Just doesn't usually want to be too long of a range, and that's just a preference. That's it. Not impossible. It's just where you prefer to be. From enemies, it's going to be kind of more like a medium to close, right? Medium range usually is the preference, and then sometimes you can get a bit closer. Maybe if you're landing abilities, sort of thing. You close the distance a bit, and that might make it a bit easier. Sort of idea, right? All that makes sense.
Nodding off.
Yeah, like just to think of like an example. Instead of well, it depends on from what you said, like the line of sight and the kind of value I would be getting from standing in different spots. But just from the top of my head, like for example, on Idea, King's Row is one of those maps that I just love playing. On first point, on defense, I'd be standing like close to hotel, near archers, and then walking back in case I need to
Mm.
fall back. And then on last point, a little longer range would be last
Yeah.
point, literally last corner, last point. We have that 2 doors, and then you can just sit back and shoot
Yeah.
down from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
usually like that last point at King's Row is probably one of those points where like usually you can, depending on like where the cart's at, holding just all the way in the back is usually gonna be pretty fine. Potentially like if the cart's like forwards, you know really far, then you can maybe take some different.
وقت النوم
That's it.
خلصنا على الهدف.
Yeah. But the idea is to correct positioning. Oh, sorry, I got away from my mic. I was just looking.
Oh.
I was just beholding. The main idea is just play a little closer to your team. You can hit shots better, take advantage of your abilities better.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Let's start to go through some of the wrap-up review and main points of the session. And let's start with ability usage. Of course, I'm not gonna go through we put a big emphasis on them. Use them aggressively. Anti-nade's really powerful. Look to use anti-nade. Really should just be coming anytime healing nade isn't needed, which is going to be probably like more like 60% of the time you're using anti-nade, and then the other 40% of the time somebody needs the healing nade to chuck it in. Try to get as many people with it as possible. Aim at the feet, at the ground, in between as many people as possible. Scope tech, don't try to hit them directly. Use off angles and stuff like that. Watch your obstacles, right? That sort of thing. Put effort and thought into it. Don't just kind of take half a second. Overall abilities, I think that's... And also use them frequently. Another thing as well, right? Quantity as well, unless you're under pressure. And you're then therefore using it defensively.
Yeah, unless I'm like running Tracer Genji or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Being annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I just go bring and just full on counter. I'm so proud of that. If I'm so proud, I once beat a cheating Tracer with Brigas. Like, fuck
nice.
you. Yeah. Well, but yeah. I know, I get it. Like, if I'm not getting pressured on, no dives, no heroes that have high mobility, then just want to target Ana.
Yep. And then sometimes,
then I can use it.
And then sometimes, occasionally, they'll have things to pressure you, and then they just won't. If that's the case, still chuck your abilities in, right? Like, it's the difference between potential for pressure and actual pressure. Like, they might have, like, the whole composition potential for pressure, but then they're not actually diving you, in which case you can probably just catch on to that and just start using your abilities again. And then
disrespect.
Yeah, exactly. All right, go ahead.
And then just one last thing, which I just have questions on. And is it and this is kind of very theoretical, I guess. Is it better to use nade, for example, to create opportunities, or to see an opportunity and both kind of go hand in hand? But what I mean is, do I want to chalk it in to create an opportunity, or do I want to chalk it in when I see an opportunity to create does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like, because, like, for example, honestly, it's kind of you kind of want to find the best of both worlds, because if you wait for the perfect, like, you can kind of think of this in like terms of nano boost usage, right? Like, you can't always try to go for the 5K. Right, like that's not how it works. If you're trying to do that, then you're only ever going to use it, once a game, if ever, right? Just because that opportunity is not always going to be there. It's not always going to be perfect. And if you're doing that, then you lack quantity, and you're going to be missing out on a lot of value. If you purely go for quantity and then you lack the quality, then you're going to be chucking a lot of nades and hitting one-man antis, or just chucking it in there, and then it's not landing on anything, right? So you want to aim for both if possible and find a nice balance between them. And really, that's the best way to go about it. Intentionally look for them, and intentionally try to throw them in off cooldown, while also looking for good quality ones, right? But don't spend 30 seconds looking for one. Spend the like we said before, like, maybe you're just looking for them for those opportunities while they're coming off of cooldown, right? That sort of thing. So you're trying to look for the within 5-10 seconds, rather than trying to wait 30 seconds, a minute for the best opportunity. It's best of both worlds, sort of thing. That kind of answer it.
Yeah. It just as a good reference point. Okay, throw an 8 quickly.
10 seconds.
It's 10 seconds. Yeah, it was 12 at one. Yeah, it was 12 seconds at one point, I think, Nate.
Yeah.
So let's say in a minute I want to throw maybe 3 nades out in a minute.
Yeah, roughly speaking, it doesn't have to be like it.
Like yeah.
Yeah,
It could be more,
yeah,
it
like
could be less,
yeah.
but
Usually,
but
usually I'd say like in a minute, like if you should probably, I'd say like unless you have heavy contention, it should be at a minimum 3 because you don't want to be spending 10 whole seconds to be looking for an aid usually. I wouldn't say it doesn't have to be 6 a minute, like it doesn't have to be literally off a cooldown. Like maybe you're doing 4 to 6. 4 or 5. That 4 to 5 would probably be the better like range to be aiming for because it's not literally all the time, but it's frequent. Okay. So yeah, unless again you're under pressure or you just quite like if you just don't have the opportunity, then you don't have the opportunity. Like if there's literally nothing on your screen that you're able, if there's a shield in your face and you're not able to do anything with nade, then save it until you can do something with nade and try to look for a way to.
yeah, and that wraps around to like playing a little closer to friends or to allies, so I can actually like find these opportunities because playing far back doesn't open those windows.
Alrighty. Really quickly, let's start to wrap up a bit faster here. Overall, that was probably like, I'm gonna put it at like a lower end of a medium-high priority for you to work on. So pretty high up on the list. Ultimate usage, honestly, they're pretty solid. I didn't really see too much. I only saw like 1, and it was good. Not too many issues with that. So overall, that's like a low, maybe low to medium. I'd have to see more, to be honest. Then next comes your mechanics. Mechanics, watch the overhealing. And minor. There's one other thing I had in my mind, but we didn't really have time to discuss it. I think that's about it. It was like kind of overhealing. Make sure you're paying attention to your Reinhardt. Sometimes we just would be a little bit too delayed or not notice him or be out of line of sight him, and then Reinhardt, we kind of just neglect him and then he die, right? So just make sure you're paying attention, that sort of thing. Prioritize the healing over damage in cases, but that's about it. Overall, that one was maybe medium, maybe even lower end of medium priority for you to work on, somewhere around that. Yeah, I'd say probably lower end of medium. Then comes your positioning. Make sure you're using cover. That one we didn't go too much in on, but I saw a few instances where you'd leave cover. Make sure you're not taking too long to rotate positions, especially when things in the fight are happening, like your Reinhardt's charging in. Position where you can see as many teammates as possible at all times. Take off angles and also just position yourself a bit closer, medium to close from enemies, close to medium from teammates. Then overall, that one was probably possibly like on par with like abilities somewhere. And is awareness. Pay attention to where's your team, where's the enemy team, kind of what's happening around you, who needs healing, who times like we'd be minorly slow to react to it. Besides that, watch health bars so you know when not to be healing people. I think that's mostly it. So overall, that one was probably like lower end of medium, around that range. Not too high. So to put that all in order, number 1 came out to abilities. Number 2 came to your positioning. Number 3 came out to comes to your, let's see, probably, I guess let's say awareness. And
well, probably a couple, but I think we'll go over them on next next VAR review. But I'll work on these. So abilities like cooldown usage and windows to use them on, make it more often. Position where I don't have to rotate as often, and like closer to my teammates. Awareness on like where everyone's at, where should I be aiming, what should I be doing, kind of thing.
Yep.
And then finally the last one I didn't quite catch.
Oh, I said, sorry, you said the third one was awareness, yeah. And then the fourth one I said was mechanics after that. So mechanics was who are you making sure you're not overhealing, making sure you're paying attention to your Reinhardt and not letting him kind of die, prioritizing the healing and keeping him alive and whatnot, pre-aiming at those who need healing, that sort of thing. Yep.
All right, perfect. So I think that's quite a bit to work on.
Sounds good. Let me stop the recording.